Okay, so I think I forgot to turn off the recording for the last exercise. So let's just look at this one with list comprehension. So this is pretty useful, but list comprehension is like really cool. But it's a slightly more advanced subject, and it's not really doing anything that you couldn't do with ordinary for loops. But it's just for some things it's a lot more elegant. So here's a common problem. You're given a list of numbers. Create a new list contains the square of the numbers. Okay, so let's approach that a little bit traditionally. So we have a list of numbers, right? That could be 1 and 2 and 3 and let's do them out of order. 1 and 3 and 2 and 5 maybe. And then we want to create a list of the square of numbers. And now, okay, so it's probably something with a for loop. So we have to loop over the numbers, and then we need to compute the square of the numbers, and we can do that like this. And maybe we can start by printing it out. Let's just remove this stuff from the last exercise, or the last example, sorry. Okay, so that'll kind of get us started, and maybe we can just verify that it works. It kind of does, but now we need to create a new list with the squares, so we call that squares, and then we need to squares.append times it. So that would maybe be how we could do it. But if you think about it, this is like 1, 2, 3 lines, and it's like such a common pattern, so maybe there's a smarter way of doing it. And in Python there is. So the smarter way of doing it looks like this. Okay, so what happens here? Well, what happens is that there is a for loop, so it loops over n in numbers. And then for each of these n, it computes what I have in front of the for loop. And then because I put it in brackets, it automatically converts this to a list. So let's just verify that that actually works. And I'll just verify it by inserting a breakpoint down here, because maybe we want to do a couple of more experiments. So we can verify that now we created, debug console. Now we created exactly the same list. We just did it in one line. So there's no like initialize a variable here and add to it. You don't have to think about that. It's just one single line. And once you get used to this kind of line, it becomes very easy to read and reason about, and actually quite a lot simpler than this stuff. Let's try to add a couple of things to this list. So let's take 5 and 7 and 12 and 4 maybe. And I'll just reinitialize numbers, and then we can recompute this one. Let's say we only wanted to include the even numbers. So how can we check if a number is even? Well, I can do that by taking the number, and then I can compute the remainder modulus 2, and then I can remember that this is equal to 0 if it's even, and it's 1 if it's uneven. So I can check if it's even by checking if this is 0, and then I can, if I wanted to check n, I would put in n here, where n would be each of these numbers. So what if I wanted to create a list of only the even numbers squared? I can do that, and again it's just special syntax. Like if I wanted to do it up here, what I specifically want, maybe it's easier to take it like this, is that I want to put in an if statement like this. Well, I can do it in an inline for loop, but if I need to take the if statement and move it to the end of the for loop. So the way it would look like is this: if n modulus 2 equal to 0. So what happens here is that the for loop starts from the inside, for n in numbers, so it loops over n for each, where it set n to each element in numbers. Then it performs the operation on the left hand side if the right hand side is true for that specific n. So this will only select the even numbers and then compute the square of the even numbers. So let's verify that it works by seeing that it's true, and that will be squared, so it will be 4, 12 squared, 144, and 4 squared. And of course it would also work for the uneven numbers. So yeah, list comprehension. Now you can ask yourself, can I actually also do some other kind of comprehension? And the answer is yes, you can. So you can also do dictionary comprehension. It's a little bit maybe outside the course, but dictionary comprehension would basically work like this. Now I create a dictionary. This is the key, this is the value. So in this case, I just set the key equal to n and the value equal to n squared. So this is how you can create a dictionary in one line. Super cool and convenient, but of course it's also something that can become unreadable if you make it too complicated. But a nice feature. So let's try to use this to solve some of the exercises. You are given a list of strings, create a new list containing the length of the strings. Well, okay, so what is the list of strings? Let's say it is equal to names. So we have this names list, and then we need to create a new list with just the length of the names. Well, I would maybe do it like this. Len. I would have a for loop of name in names like this. And then I would need to compute the length of the name, and I can just do this like this. Now if I run the code, it'll work. So you can see that Bjørn has length 6, Anna has length 4, and so on. Add a number to, wait a second. You are given a little string, create a new list containing the length of the strings, but only if the string is longer than 5 characters. That's also quite easy. So I just need to insert the if condition. Let's say longer than or equal. I don't know. I guess this is longer than 5 characters. It depends. So this would be it. Then I can, if I wanted the names, I would do like this. And if I wanted the name and the length of the name as a dictionary, I could use dictionary comprehension. Super duper convenient. Okay, so that's list and dictionary comprehension. All operations you can solve in a for loop with 2 or 3 extra lines, but fewer lines are sometimes better. Just be careful that you don't make the list comprehension like completely unreadable. And you can even do nested list comprehension and stuff like that, but that is maybe where it becomes a little less readable. But try to go crazy. I remember that I came from Java when I first learned Python, and this was one of the features that I just remembered when I understood this. I was like, this is like really, really cool. So I guess this is a good place to end the course. Yeah, as I said before, good luck with the exam.